Whether walking into a crucial investor pitch, an intense corporate negotiation, or a high stakes social gathering, most people enter spaces entirely blind to the hidden social forces already at play. They step through the door, consumed by their own internal dialogue, worrying about their presentation, adjusting their tie, or mentally rehearsing their opening lines. By focusing entirely inward, they miss the vast network of nonverbal signals radiating across the room. Behavioral psychology demonstrates that every room possesses an unseen energetic baseline, a subconscious web of alliances, unspoken tension, dominant power centers, and hidden anxieties. Failing to read this baseline before you open your mouth guarantees that your message will land awkwardly, trigger unintended resistance, or render you entirely invisible. High status individuals, master negotiators, and elite communicators do not operate this way. They employ a psychological framework known as audience calibration, the disciplined ability to scan, decode, and map the emotional temperature of any environment in a matter of seconds. Before making a single statement or pitching an idea, they pause to assess the room's nonverbal reality. Is the space saturated with high anxiety tension? Is there an overt power dynamic where one person suppresses all opposition? Is the energy open, chaotic, cautious, or outright hostile? By calibrating to these subtle signals instantly, you gain an immense strategic advantage. You no longer deliver a generic, scripted persona. Instead, you adapt your tone, posture, and pacing with surgical precision. The fundamental core of audience calibration relies on stepping out of your own head and developing acute sensory awareness. Lower status individuals blurt out jokes in serious moments, push aggressive pitches in cautious rooms, or act overly submissive when the room demands strong leadership, all because they fail to read the room first. When you master initial calibration, you transform into a human radar. You stop guessing what people want to hear and start observing what their body language, physical spacing, and eye movements are actively communicating. This foundational awareness establishes the groundwork for identifying the true power centers in any room, ensuring that every word you speak lands with maximum precision and authority. In a cinematic, high contrast wide shot of an individual standing composed near the entrance of a luxurious, dimly lit conference hall, observing a group of executives standing in distinct clusters with subtle motion blur surrounding them. Once you enter a space and quiet your internal noise, the first step in audience calibration is decoding the room's physical geography. Human beings are deeply territorial creatures, and our subconscious mind constantly manipulates our spatial positioning based on our comfort levels, perceived authority. The average observer simply sees a crowd of people standing or sitting together. A calibrated communicator, however, sees a living map of power dynamics, unspoken hierarchies, and hidden divisions. By observing how bodies are spaced, how feet are oriented, and where physical boundaries are drawn, you can map the entire political layout of a room without hearing a single word. Okay. The primary indicator to observe during your initial scan is the phenomenon of physical clustering and torso orientation. When people feel secure, aligned, or submissive toward a specific individual, their torsos and feet naturally point directly toward that person, even if they are engaged in a separate conversation across the circle. In behavioral psychology, this is known as ventral fronting. Conversely, when individuals feel alienated, defensive, or guarded against someone in the room, they execute a subtle ventral angling their chest and hips away to create a physical barrier. Scanning a room for these subtle alignments immediately reveals who holds genuine social capital and who is isolated on the periphery. Ag. Equally revealing is the concept of proxemics, the distance people maintain between one another. High status figures naturally command a larger personal space bubble. People instinctively step back to grant them room, while lower status individuals pack tightly together. Furthermore, observe how physical barriers are utilized. Are people holding their coffee cups high against their chests like defensive shields? Are they leaning far back in their chairs with crossed arms? Or are they resting their forearms comfortably on the central table? High stress levels in a room compress physical movement, causing people to pull their limbs inward to protect their vital organs. Open, spread out postures signify an environment ripe for persuasion, whereas tight, compact spatial arrangements indicate a room operating under defensive tension that must be disarmed before any progress can be made. Eng? A dramatic overhead cinematic shot of a modern boardroom illustrating the distinct spatial clusters of attendees, some leaning back defensively with arms crossed, while others angle their bodies toward a central, immovable figure at the head of the table. Danb, a critical error made by uncalibrated communicators, is assuming that the person with the highest official title, the loudest voice, or the seat at the head of the table is the actual decision maker. In modern corporate and social structures, formal titles often mask real power dynamics. Dark psychology reveals that true alpha figures and shadow influencers frequently delegate the visible, elite, high energy talking roles to subordinates while they quietly observe, evaluate, and control the outcome from the background. If you direct your entire pitch, persuasive, effort, or charm toward the loudest person in the room, you risk completely alienating the quiet individual who actually holds the ultimate veto power. Okay? To identify the true power center during your initial calibration, you must track the eye contact reflex. When a surprising statement is made, a joke is cracked, or a sudden point of tension arises in the room, observe where everyone's eyes dart first. The human brain is hardwired to look instantly toward the person whose opinion matters most to them for validation. If a junior executive speaks and then immediately glances toward a quiet senior partner sitting in the corner, that eye movement exposes the room looks to the true alpha to gauge how they should feel about the information presented. Can. Furthermore, observe who controls the conversational pace and who permits interruptions. An individual occupying a high status position moves and speaks with zero urgency, rarely interrupting others because they know they will be listened to when they choose to speak. Notice who the room allows to hold long pauses without jumping in to fill the silence. When the true power figure speaks, the ambient noise in the room drops, side conversations instantly vanish, and surrounding body language aligns toward them. Identifying this individual within your first few seconds enables you to tailor your frame, eye contact, and strategic points directly to the person who actually controls the room's consensus. Like a cinematic medium profile shot of a crowded conference room during a intense moment where multiple speakers look subtly toward a single quiet figure resting their chin on their hand with calm, unbothered authority. Beyond spatial layout and eye patterns, calibrating a room requires fine-tuning your auditory awareness to detect subtle vocal microtones and atmospheric tension. Most people listen only to the literal meaning of words being spoken in a room. However, human vocalizations carry a vast amount of subconscious data regarding emotional stress, hidden hostility, and psychological safety. When you enter an environment, train your ears to filter out the content of speech and listen exclusively to its acoustic qualities, pitch, tempo, volume variation, and cadence. High atmospheric tension manifests instantly in vocal mechanics. When individuals experience stress or their vocal cords contract due to involuntary muscle tightening triggered by the nervous system. This causes their pitch to rise slightly, their speech rate to accelerate, and their tone to sound thin or breathy. In a tense room, you will notice people cutting each other off, talking over sentences, and using nervous filler words to maintain possession of the conversation. And conversely, an environment characterized by psychological comfort features, lower vocal pitches, steady rhythms, extended pauses between turns, and relaxed laughter that engages the chest rather than the throat. Okay? Paying attention to these acoustic indicators reveals the precise emotional threshold of the room. If you enter a high tension space and immediately open with loud, overtly energetic, or casual banter, your tone will clash aggressively with the room's vocal baseline, marking you as socially oblivious. If, however, you enter, observe the tense vocal dynamics, and respond with an exceptionally calm, low pitched, and measured cadence, your voice acts as a stabilizing force, matching the room's baseline before deliberately guiding it to a calmer frequency. Dot allows you to regulate the room's emotional state without causing friction. Reckon. A high contrast cinematic shot capturing two professionals in mid conversation across a polished marble desk, where a tense, high energy speaker contrasts sharply with a perfectly serene, low pitched listener who maintains total vocal composure. Once you have mapped the spatial clusters, identified the true decision maker, and decoded the room's atmospheric tension, you complete the process of a. You no longer walk into meetings, negotiations, or high stakes social events relying on guesswork or rigid scripts. Instead, you possess a complete, real time psychological blueprint of the environment. While untrained communicators blindly push their own agenda and accidentally trigger defensive walls, your ability to read the room allows you to execute your words with surgical accuracy, effortlessly turning resistance into rapport. The ultimate power of audience calibration lies in your ability to control the social dynamic without ever demanding power explicitly by aligning your body language, tone of voice, and speech cadence with the hidden reality of the space. You bypass subconscious defensiveness. You speak directly to the true alpha's unspoken priorities, disarm the room's collective anxiety with your unshakable stillness, and guide the emotional temperature of the room wherever you want it to go. The gold standard of social mastery. An amateur tries to force the room to adapt to their energy. A master calibrates to the room's energy first, then silently forces the room to adapt to theirs. Okay? Carry this calibration framework into every high stakes room you step into. Step back from your internal noise, observe the subtle nonverbal signals around you, and read the room before you conquer it. When you master the art of rapid audience calibration, you stop being a passive participant in social interactions and become the silent conductor of every room you enter. A breathtaking, cinematic wide shot of a composed, well-dressed leader standing at the center of a glass-walled executive conference room as night falls outside, their calm presence completely dominating the space, while ambient city lights cast a rich, powerful glow around them,